Hi, and welcome to the very last type of equation manipulation. This lesson is brought to you by Diet Mountain Dew Code Red with a rush of cherry flavor. That's good. Thanks, advertisers. Anyways, so one of the biggest parts to physics, in my opinion, is setting equations equal to each other. A lot of times you're going to get problems where you seem like you don't have enough variables to solve the problem, but what you have to remember is there's different equations that are equal to one another and you can solve it that way. So let's look at this example. I have EK, which stands for energy kinetic or kinetic energy. Kinetic energy equals 1/2 mv squared. 1/2 times mass times velocity squared. Work equals force times distance. Well, later throughout the school year, when we get to the unit about energy, we're going to learn that kinetic energy and work are actually the same thing. They are equal to each other. So kinetic energy and work are equal. So here's the goal. The goal is to solve for velocity, but I'm not given kinetic energy. I do have the 1/2, I do have mass, but I don't have the kinetic energy. What I do have, though, is I do have force and I do have distance. I have F and I have D. So my goal is to solve for V, velocity, and I'm given force and distance, not EK. So one of the problems people get is they go, oh, well, I don't have kinetic energy, I can't solve this. You can, because if kinetic energy equals work, and work equals kinetic energy, well, that means I can write it like this. Let me get my mouse thing to work. There we go. Oh, no. There we go. I can actually write it like this. Instead of saying kinetic energy equals 1/2 mv squared, I could say work equals 1/2 mv squared. But again, I'm still left with the problem that I don't have work. I don't have that equation. But I do have force and distance. So now I can say, oh, instead of work equals 1/2 mv squared, force times distance equals 1/2 mv squared. Now that I know that, I can manipulate this equation and get V by itself. First thing I need to do is I have to get rid of the 1/2. How do I get rid of that 1/2? Yes, you could, if you wanted to, divide both sides by half, but I don't like doing it that way. Personally, I prefer to multiply both sides by 2. So when I multiply both sides by 2, the half is gone. And now I get this equation. I get 2 times force times distance equals mass times velocity squared. Okay, got that part. Now I have to get rid of the mass. How do I get rid of mass? That's easy. Just divide both sides by mass. So I divide both sides by mass. The mass here. Cancel. And that leaves me with, I'm going to rewrite it the other way, V squared, velocity squared, equals 2 times force times distance divided by mass. Okay, last part now. I have to get rid of the square. How do you get rid of a square? Hopefully you learned this in one of your math classes, but if you haven't, wait, what's that? Good job, you're right. You take the square root of both sides. We did it. We did it. Okay, to get rid of a square, you take the square root of something. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And when I do that, that cancels. And I'm left with my final equation. Velocity equals the square root of 2 times force times distance divided by mass. Wham! Done. So again, This is one of the hardest kinds you'll have. I know you're probably going, well, actually, that seems pretty easy. There will be a little bit harder ones, but overall, these are all the different things you'll see when it deals with manipulating equations. The hardest it gets is, in my opinion, is knowing all the different equations that equal one another. And again, in physics, we're going to have over 100 equations we have to know. Just like that, we'll have to know them. And there's so many that are equal to each other. And then what we do is we're going to set equations equal to each other and manipulate them that way, like we just did here. Now, in one of the problems for the questions that are due the first day of school, you're going to see this symbol, a V and a little O right down there. That's called V naught, or velocity naught. What that stands for is initial velocity. It's the very first velocity. The final velocity is VF. So you might see that symbol too. Well, I think you will see that symbol. So you have V naught, which means initial, and VF, which means final. So you'll see these symbols right here when you actually start doing the questions that are due the first day of school. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all there is to manipulating equations. I have been stuttering and I can't talk. Jeez. I can't wait to see how well you perform on this very first assignment when you turn it in the first day of school. Bye!